Hello, everyone, and welcome to ETEducation's leadership discussion series on advancing higher education in India, brought to you in association with our partners, Coursera. I'm Yasmin Tad, editor for ETHR World and ETEducation, and it's a pleasure to have you all with us today. And truly, this moment is pivotal. We're seeing a fundamental shift where higher education is no longer just about degrees, but about skills, employability, and lifelong learning. Digital transformation, industry partnerships, and technologies like Gen AI are reshaping the concept. I have the pleasure of having two leaders with me today. I'd like to introduce first Dr. Neeraj Saxena, who's Pro-Chancellor at JIS University. He's bringing deep academic leadership and a strong focus on innovation and institutional frameworks. So, Dr. Saxena, thank you so much for joining us today.
Namaskar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Namaskar. And also, I have Prasasti Rastogi, who's Senior Director at Coursera, who works very closely with institutions to enable scalable, future-ready learning models. Hi, Prasasti. So good to have you for this conversation, too.
Thank you for inviting me. Pleasure to be here.
Perfect. So I think to set the stage, today's discussion will explore how institutions can build agility, relevance, and innovation into the core of higher education, especially in a world which is increasingly getting more skills first and AI enabled. So, Dr. Saxena, let me begin with you here. So, as the conversation shifts from whether AI will impact education to how deeply it already has, how are you rethinking your institution's approach to align with the skills first and AI enabled future?
So allow me to turn the clock back to 30th November 22. Was not launched on that date. We all know ChatGPT. It was not launch of a product, but an epistemological rupture as far as education is concerned. To give you an analogy from nanosciences, uh, at a macro scale, gold is shiny. It has a high melting point, but when you take gold at nanoscale, the properties change drastically. Now that happens because at macro scale, it is the core which determines the properties, which shapes the properties. But at nanoscale, it is a surface. Now, when AI has come and it is countering the human intelligence, the surface has become more important than the core. Now, the core in education systems has been curriculum, classroom, examinations. Now, AI has rendered all these obsolete. They have no place actually because the information and the knowledge is in surplus now. There is an abundance. So, the structure that we have had for centuries breaks down. And it is hard for our academicians to think that such a phase change is happening. You take case of water, at 10 degrees, it is still water, 50 degrees, still it is water. You add, you double the energy, still it is water. Up to 99, it is water. 1 degree more and it changes, it becomes steam. So that is the phase that we are in as far as education is concerned. It has changed completely. And it will take some time for the educators to sink, for that ideas to sink, and this has created a lot of reversals. I'll speak about those reversals. I spotted at least 30 of them. I've documented in my blogs, in my articles. So I'll touch upon few of them, but to put it very succinctly, higher education in AI age means no curriculum, no classroom, and no examinations. We have to go beyond that. We have to change.
That's a very bold statement, I must say, because I know that the acceptance of AI has been a little difficult, especially in the education field. But the way you are saying, being an educator yourself, that everything has changed, no curriculum, everything will go for it, a toss because of the way AI has changed the way knowledge is perceived today. I think that's going to be interesting.
Right.
Anything, any big internal shift that you think is really, really required from faculty, curriculum, mindset to kind of enable institutions to, revive themselves in this age?
The purpose of education should have always been cognitive elevation. Cognitive elevation. but we have stayed back with academic progression. We feel that a student has learned when passes from one class to the other, one semester to the other. That is not education. It has to manifest in the form of cognitive elevation. Now, if you take Bloom's taxonomy, there are 6 levels. And remembering it the bottom most, then you have understanding, application, analysis, evaluate, and create. Now, our entire education system is stuck at remembering and understanding. The questions asked in the question papers say it all. And to me, EXAM exam is examining Xeroxing ability of mind that we are so fond of. Not just the teachers, but even the parents. They just love exams because they see their investment getting reflected in the form of 98, 99, or 100. They get a kick out of that. But it is not learning. So if going by this 6 levels of taxonomy, higher education means a graduate should be able to evaluate, should be able to analyze, should be able to create. But do we prepare our graduates for that? We don't, because we just want the information, knowledge to be dumped into their heads. We want to check whether there is a retention or not. And that's all. That's education for us. It does not. And that's where the disconnect between industry and academia happens. The industry is looking for graduates who can think critically. Critical thinking is about analysis, evaluate, and create. We don't create situations for our students where this can happen. So that disconnect is there. And that's why we have so many unemployable graduates these days.
So agree with you. I think that's the kind of mindset shift also that's required from the institution level, so that we bridge from relative enablement of, rather than just looking at what degrees are you giving to people. So very, very interesting. Professor, I'd like to bring you in now and talk about, as you can see, the digital learning is becoming and has become mainstream now. So what are the key markers of institutions that are getting it right versus those who are still struggling to adapt?
Thanks, Yasmin. I think Professor Neeraj has set a very good context of why we need it and how the universities themselves are viewing it. I mean, NEP has laid out a very beautiful framework. What we need is implementation tools to make sure that this happens. And that's where technology or online learning or digital learning comes into play. Because universities today are more focused on making sure that the curriculums are career aligned, they are credit ready, they're customizable to respond to the workforce needs, and they are interactive. So there needs to be a learning ecosystem that connects whatever the degree curriculums exist today to workforce needs and measurable outcomes. So institutions that have hit this mantra have made flexibility in their curriculums to bring in skill enhancement credits, ability enhancement credits through industry micro-credentials to power the curriculums into a more employability driven or skill readiness frameworks rather than being rote learning or just being outcome based education for measured only by learning objectives and not by skills that students develop, right? And all of this is possible because industry micro-credentials are now also NSQF aligned. For example, in Coursera, we host 30 of them. And then they address particular job needs. They also are academically designed. So they sit very well into the curriculums. And universities are adopting it. We have about adoption of more than 200,000 industry micro-credentials across the Coursera for Campus partner network, with many universities doing it. The second thing that is happening is faculty-led curriculum design, right? Each university knows the competencies of their own students, but they also understand what are the preferred employers or employers coming to the university are asking for, what kind of skill gaps that they see. So how can they kind of put together the in-demand curriculums and industry needs in a tailored fashion to deliver a very, very customized classroom. And that is possible. For example, on Coursera, we built Course Builder. It allows you to tailor curriculums and build courses that directly speaking to the needs of your students, but also address all the skills that your students need to be future ready. So tools like these, when deployed in the right fashion, give a lot of empowerment to the university, to the educator, to hit all the right checkpoints, which are measurable, which are scalable, and which are cost efficient and quite immediate to implement. I think that's where the success lies today.
Great. Thanks for sharing the point, Prashasti. And as you said, the way we are moving towards more employability, skill building, kind of, your outcomes that we're looking at for our graduates, these kind of ways of micro credentials or modular course building, I think are going to really help institutions build up that muscle to kind of meet the kind of demand that the industry is building up. So great point. And Dr. Saxena, I think Prashasti nicely spoke about the NEP has brought a lot of such kind of opportunities also. It has opened up opportunities for multidisciplinary, flexible learning. So what are some tangible changes that you have personally implemented and where do you still see gaps in education when it comes to kind of implementing NEP completely?
So actually, NEP was, it was conceived in pre-pandemic world and announced during the COVID, and it sets roadmap for 2040s. Now, two big things have happened since NEP was announced. First was online learning. Though it was there in vogue since 2002, but it took almost 2 decades for online learning to get mainstreamed. And Coursera had played a very important role in that, and the likes of Coursera. Now, because of online learning, we survived. We survived the pandemic. But what became very clear is that our classrooms are dead, and examination is a meaningless exercise, because putting 10 cameras to check copying doesn't improve the quality of answers. So it was more of a compliance, not really helping in improving the outputs. So these two, online learning and artificial intelligence, have actually made us rethink what NEP should be. Philosophically, NEP has many points which will remain valid for next 100 years. But technology has, like multidisciplinary education we have been talking about. So the world itself is multidisciplinary. And when you replace curriculum with challenges, with problems, multidisciplinary is automatically addressed. And while the students tackle the challenges, take on the problems, they have to depend on sources like Coursera, online learning. So it is, and they will have to fetch that information or those courses as and when they require, not as and when the classroom dictates or the teacher dictates. So there will be a complete change, and that's one of the reversals that I talk about. It is down learning. When you have resources aplenty in a digital world, you cannot go up learning. Up learning is like chapter 1, chapter 2, and you go through all the courses, and in the third year you can make one app or create something. But in down learning, when you are awash with information all around and knowledge repositories at your disposal, you have to start with problems. First day into the college, you have to start with the problem. And when you break down the problem, you go down and learn on the way. So that is down learning. So I give an example of from medical sciences, that a first year MBBS student is placed on day 1 in a ward with a patient presenting with breathlessness, swollen ankles, and fatigue. The student does not know cardiology on day 1, doesn't understand pharmacology, but they are forced to think. And this thinking is actually learning. Memorization is not learning. We have been privileging memorization over thinking. And for India, we have always been thinkers. We had gurukuls where thinking was privileged. So for us, thinking is not new. Critical thinking is not new. It has been a part of our culture. So there has been like down learning when you have information all around at your disposal. And if you ask your students some questions, they come before the teacher with answers pulled out using AI. Then what do you assess? If you are assessing that answer, you are actually assessing AI, not the student. So what do we do in that scenario? That's where there is another reversal now. You have to assess the questions. What questions the students are asking? That tells you what thinking is happening here. So this is another reversal which will happen. And there are several more going to happen. And one of them is going to be that the higher education enrollment will start falling down now, will start decreasing, because all the jobs that we had before internet required people to remember, understand, and apply knowledge. That era is over. So what do we do now? We have to only to ensure that our graduates get jobs, we have to prepare them on critical thinking. So that landscape has to be changed. That's why I said, with curriculum, classrooms, and examinations, you cannot prepare critical thinkers.
Yes, you can.
So our educators have to think completely, and the system has to be inverted now.
Yeah, that's lovely. I think as I kind of, reflect on the conversation we've had so far with Dr. Saxena and Prashasti both, I hear that, yes, AI has changed the overall education ecosystem to a very large extent, from faculty, curriculum, mindset, student expectations. But one thing that's going to remain very critical is the cognitive human abilities that are at the core of this. So the foundation does not change. We'll come back to the core competencies. AI will not replace that. And human will always remain in the lead or in the loop, no matter how far we go with this journey. So that's a very, very interesting thing. So before we wrap up our conversation, I also have one more quick rapid fire question for the both of you. And so if you had to pick one mindset shift that institutions must adopt today to truly future-proof their learners, what would that be? So, Dr. Saxena, let's hear from you first, and then we'll come to Professor.
Yeah, we must switch from answering to questioning.
Yes.
That is a big shift that is required, and for all along, it has been like a person who knows more can memorize better is better educated. That is going to break down now. It is not going to what is going to matter is the ability to ask right questions at the right level, with right depth, and with ethical intentions.
Great.
So
Thank
that's
you.
what
Professor,
I would root.
Yeah.
I would root for, and for institutions, we have to prepare our teachers as I was telling, Pandit, Drishtas, and Gurus. They cannot be challenged by AI.
Yeah, definitely not. Great thought. Prashasti, I'd love to hear you next.
I think I said it already, from knowledge consumption to knowledge co-creation. That is the mindset shift, which we can achieve through faculty empowerment rather than replacement.
Yes.
So I think that's what we need immediately.
Lovely. Thank you so much. I think what clearly stands out is that, yes, the future of higher education will belong to institutions who are not responsive to the changes that are happening, who are more proactively adaptive. I think that's what I like to call them, the institutions which are deeply connected with industry and are willing to rethink traditional models. As Dr. Saxena rightly said, there's so many reversals that have happened, so many things have gone the other way, opposite way for us. There's down learning that's happening. Students are expecting something else, I think, and technology is changing the game overall. So that's going to be for institutions to be very proactive in adapting, be very resilient, and that's going to be the future. So on that note, thank you so much, Dr. Saxena, for just it was a pleasure
Thank you.
talking to you. It was the kind of knowledge you shared and imparted, I think is going to go a long way in helping institutions prepare themselves and future-proof themselves. So thank you for your thoughts today.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.